All right, let's dive into the world of Vikings. And not just the original series. We're sailing into Vikings Valhalla 2. Centuries of saga, tons of characters. We're going to figure out, well, what makes them tick?
You've given us quite the task. It's not just names on a list. It's like the forces behind these people, historical, legendary.
Exactly. And with so many, we got to focus on the ones who really left their mark on the Viking Age. So beginning, right, the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok. Everyone knows him. Larger than life, farmer, raider, then king. But how much of that is real?
That's what's so intriguing about Ragnar. Like, he's in this amazing spot where history and myth, they just blend something. He's like a composite, several real guys plus the legends all mashed up.
Yeah.
Makes him even more interesting. He's like the whole Viking Age ideal right there.
And the show really goes for that, portraying him as this leader, charismatic, ambitious, always wants to know more. But he's not perfect, though, is he?
Oh, absolutely not. They show his bad side, too. Ruthless. Betrays people to get what he wants. That's what makes him so interesting to watch. And then there's the women in his life. Not just, like, background characters out there.
Right. Lagertha, the shield maiden.
Yeah.
A fan favorite, for sure. You don't see a woman becoming an earl every day and then a queen in a world run by men. What were some of the challenges she had to get past?
Well, she faced prejudice, of course. People who thought women stay home. Not on a battlefield, not ruling. Like, one example that stands out is when she fights her second husband. Single combat to get her earldom back. Powerful scene, showing her strength and how determined she was.
Yeah, powerful image. Defying what people expected, taking control. Interesting how the show makes her journey similar to Ragnar's. Both start from nothing, then rise to power.
I think that's on purpose. It shows that wanting power, greatness, that wasn't just for men back then. And like Ragnar, Lagertha is also rooted in legend. Makes her even more interesting. She's like,
Speaking of legendary figures, we got to mention Rollo, Ragnar's brother. Talk about sibling rivalry, huh? Betrays Ragnar, makes his own way. But what's crazy is he was a real person.
He was. And his story is just as amazing, maybe more. The real Rollo, he became the first ruler of Normandy. That part of France is still named after him. Converted to Christianity, married a Frankish princess, started a dynasty, basically. The show captures that, though, of course, with some dramatic liberties.
Wow, to think a Viking raider could change European history like that. Did his descendants, did they keep any Viking traditions?
Yeah, kind of. The Normans, his descendants, kept some things, like being good sailors and warriors. They conquered England, 1066. Huge moment for English history. So Rollo's legacy, it went way beyond him.
Like a ripple, huh? Starts with one man's ambition, ends up shaping whole countries.
Yeah.
But back to Ragnar. His legacy, well, it didn't die with him, did it? He had his sons, each one famous in their own way.
Oh, definitely. And the show gets into it, how they relate to each other, dealing with their dad's legacy, and also their own ambitions. You have Bjorn Ironside. He gets his mom's strength, her love of travel, becomes this famous explorer, goes way beyond Scandinavia.
And then there's Ivar the Boneless. He's captivating, but also terrifying. What is it about him that makes him so memorable?
Ivar, he's like a case study, ambition, intelligence, all twisted up. His disability, probably brittle bone disease, it made him resentful. Like, he had to prove himself. So he becomes this amazing strategist, ruthless leader, but also prone to, like, these outbursts of rage, cruelty.
It's like something out of Shakespeare. The way his physical limitations, they almost push him harder to grab power, control. He's the opposite of Bjorn, right? Bjorn's more the classic explorer, new lands, experiences, that's his thing.
Exactly. Bjorn's is the Viking world going outwards. Ivar's about controlling what they already have. He's like, the dark side of their ambition, do anything to win.
Yeah.
And their rivalry, plus the other brothers, that drives the later seasons big time.
Shows you, even in a family, wanting power can tear people apart. But the original Vikings, it's just one chapter. Let's jump ahead 100 years. Vikings, Valhalla, whole new cast. What's different about the Viking world now?
A lot's changed. It's like the end of their era is coming. Christianity's spreading, challenging the old Norse ways. It's a clash. Old versus new creates this feeling of tension, uncertainty.
And that's where Leif Erikson comes in, him and his sister Freydis. They seem like a new kind of Viking hero, right?
Definitely. Leif, with his voyages to Vinland, he's all about exploring discovery. Not like Ragnar, the warrior king. Leif's more curious. He wants to see what's out there, push the limits.
And Freydis, she's a warrior too, but she's really connected to, like, the old ways, the gods, the traditions.
Yeah.
How does her journey reflect the changing world.
Freydis, she's about holding on to who they are, even with Christianity coming in. She'll fight for her beliefs, even as everything's shifting around her. Shows how tough it was, those cultural, religious changes, how much they cost people personally.
It's interesting. Both shows, 100 years apart, but they have these same themes, ambition, loyalty, tradition versus progress. And speaking of connections, there's that one character, he's in both shows, bridges the gap, the seer.
Yes. The seer. Mysterious guy. He's kind of between worlds, right? Offers these prophecies, but they're so cryptic, more questions than answers usually. Reminds us that Vikings, they were big on the supernatural. Fate, destiny, those were huge.
He adds this layer of mystery. But what's his deal? Is he just a fortune teller, or is he, making things happen?
Good question. Some say just an observer, speaks for the gods, that's it. Others think, nope, he's manipulating things, nudging events in certain ways. In Valhalla, his connection to Freydis, it makes you think, is he guiding her towards some specific fate?
He's like a thread running through Viking history, connecting these characters across time. But with all these big names, it's easy to forget there were normal Vikings too, not kings, queens, living their lives in the shadow of these legends.
Right, and their stories matter too, even if they didn't end up in the history books, like Floki, for example. Not a king, but he built ships, and that changed how Vikings traveled the seas, reached new places, spread their influence.
Oh, he's unforgettable. Genius, a little crazy, totally devoted to the Norse gods. Shows that Vikings, it wasn't just about warriors and rulers. They had artists, craftsmen, farmers, explorers, all part of their culture.
And each one had their own story, their own dreams, struggles. The show does a great job of showing that even with all the big historical stuff happening, we see how war affected normal people, how they coped with the changing world, that human connection, resilience.
It reminds us, history isn't just dates and battles, it's people's lives. And Vikings, both shows, they make those lives feel real. We connect with these characters even though they lived centuries ago.
Exactly. Whether it's Ragnar's ambition, Lagertha's strength, Rollo's cunning, or Floki's spiritual journey, these characters, they give us this glimpse into a world that's both familiar and totally strange.
I'm curious, though, how accurate is this show about Viking society?
That's a tough one. It's amazing how they recreated the Viking world, Clothes, weapons, their houses, ships. But gotta remember, it's entertainment, not a documentary.
So they took some liberties, especially with the characters, their relationships.
Sure. The writers, they mixed real people, legends, and made-up stuff to make it a good story. But even so, it captures the feeling of the Viking Age. The energy, the brutality, that, enduring fascination.
It makes us think about our history, our values, the things that shape our world. But we've just scratched the surface. There are so many other characters to talk about, each one with a story. Feels like we've only just started, but wow, we've covered a lot. For you, is there a character, a storyline that really stands out, something important?
Tough to pick just one. But I think Ragnar and Lagertha, their relationship, that shows what the show does best. Mixes history, legend, and, human drama. Their love story, it's messy, but there's passion, respect. They get each other, strengths, flaws, the whole deal. Even with all the fighting, the brutality, there was still love, real connection.
Yeah. And their story shows how complex Viking society was. Lagertha, she's this warrior, but she wants a normal life too. A husband who loves her, a family. But fate, Ragnar's ambition, it keeps getting in the way.
Yeah.
Even the most powerful people, they can't always control what happens.
Exactly. That feeling of fate, destiny, it's everywhere in their world. The seers' prophecies, the gods, how they thought the gods influenced everything. And death, just accepting it as part of life.
So interesting how those beliefs shaped, everything. How they acted, who they thought they were, how they saw the world. But for people who are just starting to watch Vikings, what advice would you give them? What should they look out for in this world?
Pay attention to the details. There's symbolism, historical stuff, little nods to the myths. Don't just watch for the battles, the power games. Look at the quiet moments too, the conversations, the rituals, how they live their daily lives. That's what makes it feel real.